for people that do struggle with like nutrition, I think you just kind of like gauge how you feel. Like if you eat something and you don't feel that great afterwards, then like just note that in your brain and okay, last time I ate that way, I kind of bad that, like I felt this way, so just kind of put those two together. And so I just eat so that I feel good and I'm properly fueled. And I don't get it right all the time. Like I told you at lunch, sometimes I get it wrong and I'm like, oh, I'm really lethargic. Why is that? Like, let me just eat some more food. Oh, I feel great now. So sometimes you get so busy with the busy lifestyle that you just...
Okay, Sue McDonald, we did it. We found this beautiful location in Santa Barbara. We have a nice view of the ocean.
We do.
Viewers, you're looking at a nice quiet area to sit down, and we have a lot to talk about. In fact, we were communicating before, and you said, what are we going to talk about on the thing? I'm like, what are we going to talk about? We got 12 world records to talk about and many other things. So it's so inspiring to see what you're doing at 60, 61. Okay, so you're in this older age group that is usually in the spectator category at track meets. I just watched the Olympic trials in Eugene, Oregon, and what do they put out on the track? The exhibition Masters 800. You crushed it. The crowd was screaming for you. And this career that you're immersed in now, I want to take it all the way back to your days as an elite collegiate athlete. And then you're still going strong, which is the best part, because everybody's got their stories of when they were great back in the day. But this journey is going to sit back and relax people, because we got a journey to talk about. So I suppose we should start back in the Valley where we're both from, and how you got into track and field in high school and college and where it went from there.
Okay. Well, it started at St. Genevieve High School in Panorama City. So it was a Catholic high school. We had no track, so we had to go work out at LA Valley College. And didn't really have the best coaching there. It's pretty much like teachers, or the PE teacher would be the coach. And so when we would go over to LA Valley, the coaches there kind of picked up I guess they thought I had some potential. And so they started recruiting me to go there. Eventually I did. And that's kind of where everything kind of took off, when I got some real coaching. And so I kind of went into like doing the 400 meters, the high jump, and they thought, well, she can do everything. Let's make her into a heptathlete. And so that's kind of where I kind of learned all the events and kind of at a higher level.
So tell us the heptathlon events. This is the female decathlon. It's 7 instead of 10 events.
Yeah. It's the 100-meter hurdles, the high jump, shot put, 200, and then the next day you come back and do the long jump, javelin, and 800.
Whew. So those are some very precise technique skills in things like the javelin and the hurdles. But you were particularly good in the high jump.
Yes, that was my best event. And at the time, my coach didn't really know all the events either. So we would drive down to Long Beach and work with the Olympic coach at the time, B.rad. And he had a group of heptathletes that were training for the Olympic trials. This is in like 80, what was it? 1980, the Summer Olympics.
84 was in LA.
84, yes.
88 was in Seoul.
Right, 84. Yeah. So there was a group of people there working with him, trying to qualify for the Olympics. And so I got to learn from all those women and a great coach. And so that's kind of like how I got started in the heptathlon.
Yeah. So did you had Olympic dreams? Like you know your score and what your potential is, and is that what you were looking to?
I mean, at the time I was only 18 and I was just learning all the events. So I think my score was like 5,600. No, maybe 5,300. Sorry, and I think it took like 5,600 at the time to make the trials. So
you were like a phenom out of high school. I mean, come on, you had really 7 events, and you're putting up numbers already.
I had a long ways to go, but I was in meets with Jackie Joni Kersey, and so that was like around the same time period. Right. So it was very exciting. When I did make the U.S. Nationals, I did make it in the high jump because I guess once I started jumping 6 feet, I was able to go to nationals, and then I would see all the pros and Jackie Joni Kersey, and you know, I was kind of starstruck. But it was just a really good time.
So you were trying for Olympic trials, and in high jump and heptathlon, I guess.
Mainly the high jump, because I kind of started to focus on that since I was having success. So in 88, I was trying to make the trials in the high jump, which I was really, really close, but didn't quite make it. And so then I took a little bit of a break from track, but I always seem to come back to it because I just love it. It's like home.
So you jumped around 6'1", and for people who are not familiar with the protocol, like you have to hit a certain mark or a certain time in every event, and then you qualify for the Olympic trials for U.S. Then you can go attend that meet, which is the one we just attended last week in Eugene. But making that standard, I mean, it's great to make the Olympic team and wear USA, but like if you qualify for Olympic trials, that means you're one of the elite athletes in America
Right.
at whatever event it is. So
Right.
you were
Just off
we
that.
would say you were inches away, but you were much less than that, right? Like what, centimeters?
I needed to jump, I believe, 187, and I had jumped 186 the year
Oh,
before. So it was that
1
close.
centimeter.
Yes.
Right.
So yeah, but it was still a good, it's always good to like just try your best and whatever happens happens. But met a lot of great people along my journey, and then later on came back to it.
Yeah. So you finished college and then you wrapped up your competition for a certain time, and take us through some of those years. We can move quickly, but that's the most fascinating part is when you say you come back to this thing that you did so long.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because after I retired the first time from the high jump, I did biathlons and triathlons.
Oh my gosh.
I had always admired people that did that, and
It's so different though. I mean, there's
know.
nothing that none of your high jump skills are going to help you out in the water, swimming, getting your head,
but
beaten
it's
up.
funny because like I would always see these people like just going out for a jog and going out with their friends and jogging, and I always had to do like short sprints and jumping, and I kind of just longed to play that sort of life, for a while. And so I remember at one of the nationals championships, afterwards, after I was done, I'm like, I'm gonna go for a run. I think it was at the pre-trail, and I'm like, I'm gonna go for a run. But anyway, so after I retired the first time from the high jump, I started doing that kind of stuff and just kind of playing around with it. I never was really any good, but
I mean, it's pure endurance.
yeah,
Yeah.
I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. I did not know how to, fuel myself,
Right.
hydrate.
Yeah.
I was getting sick. It was just awful. I knew nothing about endurance.
So, I mean, you said you're never any good. I mean, we know you to be very modest, sitting here with your world record total accumulating every time we check in. But were you seriously just a middle pack, like a recreational endurance, or did you have some flash out there?
No, I think I was middle of the pack.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah.
But once I turned 50, or right before I turned 50, I started looking at the records for like American records. I wasn't thinking world records back then, but I saw the American record for 50, I believe it was 5.6 or
In the high jump?
5.3. I can't remember now.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Either one.
I can't remember, so don't
Yeah.
quote me on that.
Yeah. 5.3 would be amazing for a female. high jump.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I was 50, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, so I started training for that, thinking I could do that. And then I found out that I don't know if it was all that endurance training that like took away my bounce, but
Yeah.
oh my God, I was a totally different person when I tried to come back. I used to open up at like 5'6", 5'8".
Yeah. Sure. Tell me about it. Yeah.
And now I can't even make 5 feet, so it was crazy. But I did end up getting the American record for 55.
So your first foray
No,
back
50.
was high jumping.
Yes.
Back to high jump.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's what brought me back
Yeah.
to Masters, yeah.
That's funny because I know a lot of ex-basketball players when they're 50 and they think they can still dunk and they go in and pull a hamstring.
Yeah.
You're looking at some record on a piece of paper like, oh, I could do that.
Yeah.
And you did it.
I was so surprised. I did not have any speed. I didn't have any bounce, nothing. But
What about the pole vault excursion in there? And
yeah.
back when you were in college, there was no pole vault for females, which is atrocious to remember that. And like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. But then you did it later in adult life?
Yes. I was over at UCLA. I had an athlete I was working with in other events wanted to pole vault, and so I hooked her up with Anthony Kearns at UCLA, and he had a pole vault training club right there. And he told me, because I kind of knew Anthony and he knew me as a high jumper, and he's like, Sue, you really should try this because you can qualify for the Olympic trials like next year. And the first ever USA Nationals for women's pole vault. I'm like, oh, wow, that sounds really exciting because I'd like to be a pioneer in something.
So this is like late 80s or?
It was 95.
Oh my
So
gosh, they didn't have pole vault till 95. That is
No, so 1995 was the first time they had pole vault at the USA Nationals. So I qualified for that. I did break my ankle pole vaulting like about 6 weeks before, and it wasn't a bad break. So I did compete, and I had a few problems with that meet. But anyway, I made it through.
Did you realize she almost skipped this? Like, she made it to nationals. How old were you?
Let's see, I was 32.
Right, you were the only one with a kid. You said,
Yeah.
in the whole field, she's the only one with a kid. Like, no camaraderie whatsoever. She's got like diapers in her bag along with her extra spikes. Oh my gosh! So this was like a mid foray before you got into Masters track and 50 record.
You know how at that time like soft lenses for contacts were coming in, and I didn't really know how to use them that well. And I think this is at Sacramento State, to be honest. But anyway, you know how I went to the bathroom to put I felt like my contact was coming out, and I ended up putting 2 contacts in over each other, and so I was seeing double.
Oh wow!
And that's how I pole vault.
Oh gee.
Actually, I don't even know how I did. I know I cleared a height, but it was kind of challenging.
What did it take to get to nationals?
It took like 10 feet.
Yeah.
They didn't, you know, with it being so new for women, they didn't really know what we were capable of, and everyone was just learning it. So a lot of the people that were successful were ex-gymnasts.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so then the next year for the Olympic trials, they picked the top 12 women in the nation. So basically, just if you were top 12, you got to go.
Yeah, usually more would qualify. So
but it was an exhibition.
So new, yeah. Oh, it was an exhibition in the Olympics. It wasn't even legit Olympics yet.
No.
Until 2000, right.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was 7th ranked, I think, then. I only jumped like 12.3, which is not much. It's not very high compared to what.
Pretty good for a mom, though.
Yeah, I think so. They used to call me grandma.
Oh, my goodness.
Girls.
Oh, my goodness.
At 32.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was a fun time.
So between 32 and 50, you're doing the endurance stuff?
Yeah, I went back and did some road races. I did bike races. I played around with road bike races and Criterium, and that was humbling.
Oh, yeah.
That's a whole different ballgame. But, you know, it was something I wanted to try, and there was a little group here. We formed a little women's cycling team, and until everyone started crashing and getting injured, that we split up.
Sort of loses its luster with those road rashes coming.
Yes. And so then I was high jumping at a meet in 2015, and I tore my hip labrum at the plant.
And this is how far into the high jump scene? How many years?
This was I think it was just a couple of years. I think in 2013 that's when I started jumping again. And then, so 2 years into it, I tore my hip labrum. I was able to compete in worlds regardless, and managed a 2nd place. And then I thought I was done, you know, because you really should jump on a torn hip labrum.
Injured,
but you know, I still high jump every so often. I just don't train for it. So I just do it.
I'm finding that to be a good strategy. Yeah, don't train that much for it. Just do it.
You get hurt.
Yeah. So that was your comeback event, and then at some point it broadened into heptathlon type events, and
not really. After that, I thought, well, I shouldn't high jump, so maybe I should just run. You know, maybe I could
run in a straight line.
Yeah, run in a straight line, or do the marathon. Like, check that one off my list. So
you're all over the map.
Yeah, I'm all over the map.
You're taking your high jump talents to the marathon starting line.
Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't really fit. Like, you know, when LeBron said he was taking his talents to South Beach, we don't need your high jump talents here on the marathon. We need you to shuffle for many hours.
Yeah.
Was because like wasn't your husband a big Ironman person too?
Yeah. So Michael
had that endurance thing going.
Right. So Michael was a 7-time Ironman, and we met doing triathlons. So we have that history behind us. And I just figured, well, what can I, you know, when you're hurt, you're like, well, what can I do? I need to do something. So I thought, I'll just, you know, do a marathon. I want to qualify for Boston. And so I did qualify for Boston. And then I realized training for it that my hip was hurting, you know, just like a dull ache all the time. And so I thought, well, that's stupid I shouldn't be doing all those miles. And so I cut back on the mileage, and I did go ahead and did the Boston Marathon, which was in 2018, the worst weather in the history of, when it had hail. And so that was actually pretty comical.
Did it cure you from your marathon?
It did. It did. I was done.
It's miserable.
Done.
Yeah. And so then you saw an opportunity to get back and make track your main focus.
Yeah. So I thought, okay, now again, what can I do? What will this hip allow me to do?
She's not sitting still at home. We don't have that on our annual timeline.
No, I have to do something. So I thought, what about middle distance? Like I was really good in the 800. So the 800 is the last event in the heptathlon, and I was always one of the best, even like amongst the elite. I ran like a 2:15.
Oh my God.
Pretty good for a heptathlete.
Oh, watch the Olympics, people. That's there's a few people faster than that.
Yeah.
Not many though.
And then I had a lot of experience running the 400 meters and the 400 meter hurdles in college. So I also did that at Valley College. And so I thought, well, maybe the 400 and 800. And then I happened to just find someone on Facebook, like my friend Leslie, she's now one of my best friends. She had just broken 3 world records within a couple weeks in the 800 in the W60 division, 800 in like the indoor mile and the outdoor mile. And so then her husband started coaching me, and then everything kind of just took off from there once I started focusing on the 400 and 800.
You said W60, so the divisions are every 5 years, and so it's W60 is 60 to 64.
Yes.
W55 would be 55 to 59, and so forth.
Yes.
So the 55s is when you started to knock off some records of assisted by the husband of the women who had the records before you. Is that what we're getting at?
Yes.
And do they still invite you over for cocktail gatherings? And
in fact, it was funny because Tom Hines is Leslie's husband, and he wasn't coaching me anymore. But like we just went to indoor nationals in Chicago, and I was going to go after the world record in the mile. And I asked him if he would, time me. So he'd giving me splits.
Yell some splits out.
He was giving me splits so that I could beat his wife's record.
Yeah, that's cool.
So,
I mean, we should stop for a little commercial here. Like the camaraderie in Masters Track is so amazing, and I'm just getting back into it, having just done a few meets in recent years. But like everybody's really supportive, and like I think there's a vibe when you walk in that like. The fact that we're able to enter and participate is so huge at our ages, and everybody's like celebrating each other just for participating. Yeah, and that's really that's great, and you don't see that in a lot of sports, but it's definitely a big element of it.
It is. That's probably the main reason why. If you ask anyone that does Masters Track and Field, that's the main reason why they do it. Is the friends that they meet and the experiences.
Yeah. So this onslaught has been going on since 2018 to present day in 2 different divisions. And how many world records are you sitting on right now?
I think I have 11. Yes.
What events? Come on, throw them out.
Oh gosh. Okay. The indoor 400, indoor 800, indoor mile.
Mile, yeah.
And the outdoor 400, 800, mile, 1500. Heptathlon, steeplechase.
Is people counting? Steeplechase. You see the steeplechase in there.
Yes, I told you I like to do risky things, and I did a steeplechase last October.
Nice. So it's like if you enter an event, there's a thread of there's a world record watch if you just show up. Yeah.
I don't know. I can say that the steeplechase was the hardest track and field event I have ever done in my life.
Yeah, you watch and you see people like eat it on the last barrier, and you're like, haha, they fell in the water. But like, I can't imagine going up to these barriers when you're fatigued. Like,
I didn't train for it. So, it was a 2,000 meter steeplechase, and I barely trained for the mile.
Yeah.
So, you add the water jump and the steeples, and it was hilarious. I would like run up to it, almost come to a stop, hurdle it.
Yeah, right. You got to get over no matter what.
And by like the last 2 laps, I was cussing at it each time I come to a barrier. Whew. It was comical.
Okay, so now some big questions are coming up, and one of them is like, how the heck can you possibly manage this and the training necessary to run these fantastic times? And I think there's sometimes a knee-jerk reaction like, oh, she was a big jock in college. She was Olympic level pole vault and high jumper. but like that was so long ago that I know you can look up some former competitors that are not exercising much now, and there's no prayer of even jumping 2 feet in the high jump unless you're really locked in. And so how did you like leverage that athletic talent that's been there your whole life, and what is your daily regimen like these days?
Basically, it's pretty boring. It's just all about consistency and just trying to stay injury-free. So,
Hey,
like,
that's my number one goal too.
exactly.
Before the world record, she says stay injury-free. Then we start talking world records.
Yeah, because I did have some injuries, with the hip was kind of really aggravated for my first probably 3 years, like from 55 to 58.
Yeah.
It was really, I didn't really know how to manage it. And so now I do certain exercises that strengthen everything around the hip, the injured part. So
no surgery.
no surgery.
You just heal this thing with strength and.
Well, they don't heal. The labors
right.
don't heal
Yeah,
themselves.
that's why the people usually end up hip replacement.
Exactly, yeah.
Right. So you're gonna forget that.
Well, apparently it was a small enough tear where they didn't recommend surgery, from the get-go. And since then, I've been able to manage it basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think a lot of luck has to do with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's just when I first started working with Terry Howell, my coach, he said my training is not rocket science. It's actually going to be pretty boring, and it's just like you just need to be consistent year after year. And he said you're going to get faster your first year, and then you're going to get faster your second year, and you're going to get faster your third year. So we're coming up next year is going to be my third year with him. So far he's right. He's been right on. So I'm expecting to get faster next year. Now, maybe it's going to be in the 1,500 in a mile.
Yeah.
But I don't really feel like I'm losing my speed.
Yeah.
So I just don't know.
Well, I mean, what's interesting is like nobody knows, and there's really almost no history for someone defying aging in the manner that you and the other great masters athletes are doing. And I think, man, they should have you at a university studying your blood work and everything else.
There you
because, I mean, everyone knows that chronological aging is real, and you're not going to jump 6'1" ever again. I'm sorry to say that. However, like getting faster from age 60 to 61 to 62 is mind-blowing. I mean, like everyone would love to know the secrets. So one of them was thrown out there if you're taking notes: consistency and, building on what you did last year, regardless of how many birthday cake candles.
Yeah.
And so you've been at this pretty heavily for the running training in the areas where you have set the world records. This is like a 6-year timeline now or something?
Yes.
Before that, you were high jumping, getting injured,
Right.
doing a marathon.
Yeah. Doing like the 400, 800, 300 hurdles, mile. It's been about 6 years.
Yeah. And so you're kind of in the category of, it's a very, very rare double to be 400, 800. Even you see in the elites. I mean, the last person to do it in the Olympics is Wantarena in 1976. I don't know about female 400, 800 doublers, but it's weird because 800 requires a lot of endurance, and the 400 requires a lot of speed.
Yeah, it is very weird. I don't know why. I just know that I was always very good in the 800 in the heptathlon. That's if I hadn't done the heptathlon, I probably wouldn't even know that I was any good in the 800. I remember in high school they made me do an 800, and I cried because I didn't.
The poor high jumpers crying again. Yeah.
But now it's all what you're trained for. But yeah, it's just being consistent year after year, and then like you said, building year after year. Like when I first started out, I was only focused on the 400, so I didn't have any endurance whatsoever. So when I first started out with Terry, I was doing like a 20-minute run 3 days a week, and that turned into a 25-minute run 3 days a week. And then once I got to 30 minutes, maybe we did 3 days, and then 4 days a week. So it was a very safe way to accumulate the mileage. And last year I think I was doing in my, like I call my medium endurance runs, maybe 3 to 4 miles. This year I do 4 to 5 miles. See how it's like just 1 little mile extra, and maybe 3 or 4 times a week. Next year I anticipate it's going to be 5 or 6 miles. I don't know. It depends on if we're going to focus on a little bit more on the mile, try to get my mile time down, or my 1,500 meter time, because you definitely need a little bit more aerobic capacity.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there, even in the 60 plus, that are jogging 3 or 4 days a week for 30, 40 minutes. So I'm going to like cut to how the heck can you run a 62 quarter? It's not from jogging 20, 30 minutes, 3 to 4 days a week.
Yeah. I think, well, Terry does a really good job at blending in the speed. Like, for instance, like yesterday, I told you I did a 600, which was like at a mile pace, and then a 300 at 800 meter pace, and then the 200 was kind of in between 4 and 8 pace, and then it was like 3 150s at the end. So you see that 200 and the 150s is blending in the speed. Like, we always kind of like touch on it, and I might have some workouts maybe earlier in the season where it's more strength based, but most of the time he makes sure that I at least have some speed in there. And then I always do strides, so I'm really big on strides, or I call them fresh runs, where you do like 8 to 10 strides, like maybe 20 seconds long or 100 meters long. And
in the middle of at the end of
my runs, like so if I do 3 or 4 miles or 4 or 5 miles, then I'll do strides afterwards, and that really works on your leg turnover. And
how many did you say? 8 to 10?
Yeah.
So that's a little strenuous.
Yeah.
And Steve Magnus talked about this a lot in his recent book, Science of Running, and it was interesting for me to read this because we've always thought in these black and white terms and these templates, like this is periodization, and you have your base phase, and then you do your speed. And he was kind of blowing up a lot of those notions, saying like the body, you can stimulate fitness adaptation in the body in a variety of different ways, including running strides at the end of what's supposed to be a slow jog.
Yeah.
So, and then like when you say Terry's tapping it in or leaking it in, it's literally true. Like you're training different energy systems in hopefully a strategic manner where you don't fall apart.
Right. Well, if you think about it too, like the fresh runs, if you do them correctly, you're really only supposed to have like a 20-second rest. So you basically just like safely slow down, turn around to start over again. And if you think about it, that's like 1,000 meters of aerobic work. But you're thinking about correct running form, right? So it's a good way to cool down. Like that's my cool down instead of just the slog jog. Like people just like, usually people go, oh, I'm going to go run like a mile to cool down. And they're just like, just shuffle jogging. Yeah. Whereas I'm cooling down, but I'm working on my form at the same time. Yeah. And I'm working on my leg turnover. It's not going to be super fast, but I think that's another something I really like about my training.
So you have a few jogs a week, ending with strides, and then you have some pretty hard work, like you mentioned with the breakdown of doing work on the track. And how often is that?
Twice a week.
Okay.
Yeah, twice a week.
This is pretty boring, like you say. It's a consistent in and out.
I mean, those workouts change. I might repeat, like that workout I did yesterday. I did it in early June, and sometimes it's fun to repeat the workout so you can see if you've improved. And I was faster on each interval, so that was a really good confidence booster for me. Because if I just ran, like 0.30 seconds from my world record, and I'm 1 to 2 seconds faster in all my intervals, compared to a month ago, I'm like, okay, I should be ready to make a breakthrough.
So you're working hard on the track 2 times a week. If someone showed up, I was late because we drove a long way and I didn't see you there, but I burned up that track later. But you'd see you're getting after it. And then the other days you're doing a comfortably paced run with those strides at the end, which I think is an important factor. Yeah. And then what else is mixing in there? I know there's more because we fit this podcast in around, let's see, was it 2 morning workouts and a couple coming up? Oh my gosh. Yeah.
No, well, I do lift weights probably like mostly twice a week, but there's some runs where I incorporate a few like extreme isometric moves in between the run. So like before and after. Yeah. But for the most part, the longer strength training is 2 days a week. And that's something I've been doing for years.
And this is in a proper gym environment with what kind of stuff are you doing?
Well, I have all the stuff at home, although I did partner with a local gym, Women's Athletic Club. So I have the option to go in there. They have, what's that? The deadlift, the hex bar.
Hex bar.
They have a hex bar. I don't have a hex bar at home, unfortunately. but I have everything else. So if I just don't want to drive over, if I'm short on time, I'll just work out at home.
And we'll put a plug here for Sue McDonald Fitness Instagram site, because you're showing some of these cool workout things, and they're quite creative, and it seems like a lot of stuff with mobility and balance and doing things on one leg and all that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I can credit Joel Smith from Just Fly Sports podcast. He's my strength training coach, and I've been working with him on and off since 2020. And I just love the stuff he gives me, because like I really don't get sore. So it's not like I remember when I was younger in my 30s, like I would do like back squats, and I'd have like 350 pounds on there, and my feet would hurt, and just or doing all these heavy weights, and I don't do that anymore, thank God. But I do Olympic lifts, but they're not heavy. It's more for the speed of the lifts. And he has me do a lot of things that are really centered on running faster and running stronger. Not a lot of like really heavy like double-legged squats or anything like that.
So it's a pretty precise protocol involving these things that are directed toward your goals and injury prevention, I suppose.
The other thing with my hip, I consulted with David Gray. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's from Ireland. David Gray Rehab. Found him on Instagram, and he's an amazing guy that created all these programs like lower body basics, core basics, and then he has the ankle. I think I told you about that. The ankle, Achilles, and foot program.
Yeah.
Anyway, I ended up having a consult with him right before the 2019 Worlds in Poland, because my hip was bothering me. And so he gave me like 3 different exercises to do for my hip, and I did those religiously for like 3 weeks, and my pain was really reduced.
Wow.
Yeah. So I still do those. I slacked off a little bit.
Yeah.
But now that I'm doing the pole vault again, I back online doing my physical therapy for my hip. But yeah, so it takes a lot of time, but it's fun.
Yeah, I'm so amazed like at the results. If someone really does find a good sports-minded physical therapist, I love my guys in Tahoe PT Revolution and my guy in Sacramento at Dr. Jonathan at Keim Physical Therapy. You got to do the stuff, and like the possibilities of recovering from stuff that we usually see as a path towards surgery and debilitation is actually amazing.
Yeah.
And there's such a huge difference between a quality practitioner and going to shitty physical therapy where they rub the ultrasound on and there and say, okay, come back next week.
Yeah.
And I really find that most of the results come from challenging yourself and getting stronger. Dr. Jonathan says if you're getting strong, you can't go wrong. And like I go in there for my surgically repaired Achilles, and he's just busting my butt with kettlebells and things that I'm like, hey, this hurts a little. Are you sure it's okay? He goes, keep going. 2 more sets. Quit talking. Keep working at it. Yeah, and then over time, you get stronger and stronger in the pain and the things that, so I'm just speaking to the broad audience here, like think bigger than anti-inflammatories, rest, and gradual demise into wheelchair bound and all that, because the body's great at bouncing back. I mean, a torn hip labrum is a terrible injury, and you're carrying on and jumping over bars and vaulting over bars. It's crazy.
Yeah. I also have a good chiropractor here, Dr. Benjamin Holt. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he's been keeping me in one piece also for like the past 10 years.
So you have a great team around.
I have a great team.
Yeah.
I
mean,
really do.
If you didn't have that, I wonder how, you'd be...
I wouldn't be here doing it.
You'd be on some dead ends, injury and
I would
whatever.
I don't know, just like bike riding or jogging.
Right. Yeah. That's true. I mean, especially in explosive power sport, the fine tuning is crazy. And we were talking a little bit about aches and pains and the things that come up, and like I'm wondering if this stuff will always be there. And you're like, yeah, maybe so if you're sprinting and trying to go fast.
Yeah.
But I always feel like there's, it's sort of like going in and getting an assessment, and they say, hey, can you squat all the way down? And you fall back. Well, your ankles are inflexible, your hip flexors are weak. And now there's something like, really, I can get better? And there's always potential to get better and then go take that to whatever you like to do, including play with the grandchildren on the carpet if that's not working right now.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we got the dream team in place. You talked about some of your workout patterns. So you're going twice a week to the gym, twice a week to the track, a few days of easy jogging. I imagine these are happening on the same day at times, so there's all this overlap.
Well, yeah. Now that I was training for the javelin too for nationals. It's kind of a fun event, so I try to do one workout a week for javelin, and then I do a hurdle workout once a week, mainly kind of hurdle mobility. But I end it with going over like a few hurdles, like the 80-meter hurdles. I try to do that once a week. The 300 hurdles, I don't really practice. I kind of rely on my experience and my 800-meter strength and my 400-meter speed. And you can kind of be a little straggly over those hurdles. You don't have to be as technically sound as if you were doing the short hurdles. So I think I've only practiced over those hurdles, like spaced out for 300-meter hurdles like once so far. And I'll be doing it at Nationals and Worlds. So
yeah. And what about the rest of your lifestyle here in beautiful Santa Barbara? I imagine you're getting a lot of sleep. And tell us about any other recovery modalities or things that you do to be your best as an athlete.
Yeah, I'm actually really focused on getting 7 to 8 hours sleep. I probably more towards 7 just because it's a little hard. But Michael and I used to own a coffee shop, and I used to have to open the coffee shop, and then I had little kids at the time, and so I don't know, all those years, like I got into the habit of only getting like 4 or 5 hours of sleep.
Oh my gosh!
And then I had all these big goals. I thought, well, I'm learning that sleep is like, if you do anything, get enough sleep, right? So I decided to really focus on getting to bed earlier. Maybe not drinking the wine I enjoyed with my husband at night, because that interrupts sleep pattern. And so yeah, getting more sleep, doing some recovery, like, I like Epsom salt baths for sore muscles. So if I have a really hard workout, I'll take a couple of Epsom salt baths. I don't have a cold plunge. I wish I did.
Well, you got the ocean.
I have the ocean, yes.
Yeah. Actually, today it was 61.5. I was surprised. Yeah.
Yeah, I need to do that more often.
Yeah, I mean, I got cold after 5 minutes, but yeah, it was great.
I mean, if I work out at UCSB, it's right there. The ocean's right there, and then City College, the ocean's right across the street. Yeah. So I have no excuse except just remembering to do it.
Yeah. What about your dietary habits and things like that?
Yeah, dietary habits. I've always been I've been the same, like, height and weight for a long, long time.
Like most Americans. Oh, excuse me, not like most Americans. Yeah. You know what the stat is for the average American gains a pound a year from age 25 to age 65. Wow. And it is the gaining of 1.5 pounds of fat and losing a 0.5 pound of muscle.
I believe it.
And then at 65, we start to worry about keeping weight on because you start to get sarcopenia, and you might lose weight and feel great that you're still the same weight, but like your waist size is 7 inches bigger than it was in college. That doesn't count. When we're talking about Sue's category here, we're talking about fighting weight the whole time.
I was blessed with just fast metabolism, and my parents were both thin, and so weight has never been a problem. But as far as nutrition goes, I was plant-based for about 7 years until a couple years ago, and I started working with Cynthia Monteleone, and she had me start eating.
Former podcast guest, listen to that show too. Fast Over 40 on Instagram.
Yes.
You say it so nicely and politely, but you told me she forced you to eat meat, or she wouldn't work with you.
Yes.
And I'm like, Cynthia, throw down.
Actually, yeah, I kind of had a consult with her, and then we were set to work together. And then she found out from someone else that I'm plant-based, and then she called me back. She's like,
"Rumor mill.
I can't work with you unless you eat beef." And I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna eat beef then." So whatever, not whatever it takes, but as far as nutrition goes, so. And I thought, open up the doors for some things that I've been missing out on, and it'll be easier to, when you go out to restaurants when you eat meat. So, and it was not a bad transition at all. Like my stomach was fine and everything was fine. So I just, take the regular, vitamins and minerals, and I have some protein powder I take. But yeah, I just try to eat just real food, eat a lot of it, when I fuel yourself properly. yeah, just nothing really out of the ordinary.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, my listeners know we've talked to so many diet experts and different, getting deep into protocols like fasting and time-restricted feeding and the ketogenic diet and the primal paleo ancestral diet. And one of my former guests, Lindsay B.rad, she does a show on like athlete diets, and she's interviewed top athletes from all these different sports, like a PGA Tour and National Hockey League and baseball players. And she said that she's never come across an elite athlete in any sport that engages in a restrictive type diet of any kind. And when I say restrictive, I'm talking about, oh, I'm on a fasting protocol. I'm on the 16-8 and I eat in this little window, or I follow the keto diet. There's that documentary that got a lot of publicity for plant-based elite athletes, but if you do the research further and examine what's going on, some of these people are like, had a short term, like LeBron James went keto one summer and lost, 10 pounds of fat, and he got quicker on the court. But the elite athletes are by and large eating food and fueling and nourishing themselves without dealing with calorie counting and measuring ketones and things like that.
Yeah, I don't weigh myself. And
how do you measure yourself against other athletes? By time. That's a Caddyshack reference in case you didn't get that, people.
Yeah, I don't know. It's pretty simple for me, but like I'll eat a chocolate chip cookie every now and then.
Well, you run a 62 every now and then also.
Whatever I'm doing is working, so.
Yeah. And not to get like kind of too tongue-in-cheek about this stuff, but like you kind of earn the chocolate chip cookie when you win a national title, break a world record, or have a great workout at City College. And so I think there's, maybe a lot of, obsessing and nitpicking these dietary strategies where we have a whole entire other a side of the balance scale here, which is go bust out some really challenging workouts and push your body to a limit, and therefore you're going to negate any potential adverse effects of going and having the McDonald's handmade ice cream, which I'm heading to after this podcast. Right. You're welcome to join me if you eat ice cream. I imagine she probably does. Yeah. Oh, that's right. After that. But I mean, I want to get that out there as kind of like a side note here where, we're seeing a lot of content about, oh, sugar's toxic and sugar's this and sugar's that. Sugar's burned in the cell for energy when you're exercising. If you slam a Slurpee and then sit home and on the couch and watch TV, you're going to get an adverse spike in your glucose meter and insulin and all these things that are causing the disease patterns. But I think you stand as a great example for like, get out there and work hard, people, and then, make good choices. Obviously, you're not going to perform at a high level when you're a chicken McNugget person. But
I think for people that do struggle with like nutrition, I think you just kind of like gauge how you feel. Like if you eat something and you don't feel that great afterwards, then like just note that in your brain and okay, last time I ate that way, I kind of bad that like I felt this way, so just kind of put those two together and so I just eat so that I feel good and I'm properly fueled, and I don't get it right all the time. Like I told you at lunch, sometimes I get it wrong and I'm like, oh, I'm really lethargic. Why is that? Like, let me just eat some more food. Oh, I feel great now. So sometimes you get so busy with the busy lifestyle that you just don't eat as much as you're supposed to.
I think people kind of maybe due to these, these well-intentioned desire to fast for a long period, and then you see them in line at the convenience store for Ben & Jerry's later that night, and they're just like, they went too far on the side of the stress scale of not eating and going through busy life, especially anyone in the athletic realm, like the CrossFit paradigm of, females getting really strong, getting low body fat, doing keto or fasting or other things that are popular in the CrossFit, and they blow out their hormones and they start to like become sick, tired, poor recovery, all those things because of too much stress.
Right.
Yeah.
Keep the stress low.
So the stress level of Sue McDonald's diet is low in terms of you enjoy yourself, you're not scrutinizing everything, and you're noticing how you feel. It's I love that tip. And I think then we get into a negative spiral where if you put a lot of junk food in your diet and you feel like crap all the time, that's your baseline. And then maybe McDonald's ice cream, you're going to feel great for an hour and then have another crash. But it's like, hey, at least I felt great for an hour. And this seems like a big thing in modern life where the exercise isn't working, the diet's not working. And so like, you know, we're at level 3, trying to go to level 3.5 once in a while with an ice cream.
Yeah.
Instead of going level 10 would be world record level. Do you ever sit back and like reflect that no female in the history of the world has done what you're doing at this age?
Not really. I just kind of keep focusing on how I can get better. Like I think I could get better.
Yeah.
And so
Love it.
I mean, I'm just never satisfied, you know, because I still think I have more in me.
Yeah.
At this age, my big goal now is to run my age in the 400 meters. So,
and we were looking that up on the charts, and it's like one woman has done it in history or something.
No, there's been several.
Oh,
been a handful.
Okay.
A few, you know, less females than males.
So running your age, people, would be when you're counting 400 meter time. I kept saying 62. That's a minute 2 seconds. So 62 seconds, 62 years old. Wait,
Well, yes,
you're
I'm
right
61.
there.
So
61. You ran a 62.
I ran.
Oh my gosh.
62.18 last time.
Oh my gosh.
I ran my season best, and so so I'm pretty close. And I think if I do it, I might be the youngest woman.
Oh, okay.
So that would be pretty cool.
Do you know what the youngest man is?
I don't.
This is fascinating because we know from, like, just for reference, the world records for males, 43 flat, females, well, I'm going to say 48 something as a true female world record. But think about the age of the person. No 43-year-old's ever going to run a 43 or a female. And so we have to get to this sweet spot, which you could be identifying the sweet spot right now.
Yes.
Because when you're 70, running a 70, I think is going to be, that could be
hard.
Too much to ask for.
I think once you hit 70, you know, it might be hard to do those types of things.
Best of luck to you, dear. You have a couple years left, and then, you know, what a goal, though. Wow. Yeah. You're going to knock it off any time. Yeah.
Yeah, and my other goal is to run like 220 in the 800. I've been chasing 220 since I came on the scene in like 2018.
Yeah.
So I thought, and all my coaches thought I could run 220 in the 800, and I just never have. And so I thought, well, I've got 222, maybe I'll do 221. If I ever do 220, then maybe I will retire because, like, okay, I'm done.
That's amazing. Well, as I told you, I could pace you because in my last 800, I went out in 110. Took me 1 minute and 22 to do the next lap. I got a little too ambitious, but I could certainly be one of those pacers that we see out in the Diamond League.
That first lap.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just for reference. Like I just watched the CIF high school masters meet. So the best girls in the state in California in high school are they're under 220. The fastest ones are quite a bit faster. But like if you're running, you're like an elite high school runner at age 61.
Yeah,
Crazy.
I still run with the college meets.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. How's that? What's that like?
Invitationals.
Yeah.
If they have, it's usually the big invitationals will have like a ton of kids.
Yeah.
And so usually like the Division II, Division III athletes I can kind of like keep up with. And so my goal is usually don't get lost. So yeah, and everyone knows me now. Like I come to all the meets and people are really starting to get to know me, which is kind of fun.
So you get a positive reaction from the girls and the coaches. Yeah.
So yeah, it's fun. They're inspired to see someone my age still doing it.
Wow.
You know, so
that's super cool.
It's fun.
Yeah. And so you're going to keep improving every year. What does Terry say about like year 7? Does he have any
I'm going to have to ask him about year 4 because
really
year 3.
Yeah.
So I'll have to say, what's our plan year 4?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you feel like any effects of your chronological age at this point? Like
I don't really. I don't. I mean, I'm maybe a little.
You don't get sore.
Well, I do get sore, but I might be a little more creaky, like things.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but then you go on your own Instagram and look at some of those exercises to get uncreaky. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I really feel a lot younger than I am. I feel great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're racing in college meets, so you're gonna have to feel younger when you're on in lane 7.
Believe me, sometimes if I really start to think about it, I'll say to myself, "What am I doing here?" These kids are like younger than my youngest, or about as young as my youngest son. So sometimes I feel like, oh, I shouldn't be here, but then I'm like, no, I'm I could run just as fast as these people.
Yeah.
So I should be here.
I mean, that's what's so awesome about track and field is it's the clock. There's no schmoozing or being in a place that you don't belong.
Yeah.
You got your seed time and you're in the meet.
Some of the meet directors and coaches at some of these colleges are still there from when I was in or post-collegiate.
You're typing a note like, "Hi, can I enter the high jump, please?" Yeah.
It's so funny.
It's Sue from '86. Remember me? Yeah.
It's so funny because there's some coaches that are still coaching 20 years, 30 years later.
It's impressive. Yeah. What do your friends think? Like your peer group? I know you introduced me to your college team.
Yeah, they think I'm crazy.
Yeah.
They think I'm crazy for I mean, they're supportive and everything, but they're just like, I don't know how you're doing this.
Yeah.
They can't. They're not. There's no way that they would want to even try to do it. Just and also it's you have to have a supportive spouse. So shout out to my husband Michael to put up with all.
Well, come on, you're a 7-time Ironman spouse support person.
I know
that requires a lot of patience and time and energy, especially at the event. I used to announce Ironman races, and I did one with no backup announcer, so I was announcing for 17 hours straight. And I started to get punchy at the end, and I was doing I'd get on the PA and go, attention all athletes, please report to the finish line immediately. Everyone's getting tired. We want to go to sleep. Oh man.
That's funny.
But yeah, there's a lot of downtime.
There is. I supported him when we first met. That's how we met.
Yeah.
The triathlon. And so I went to a bunch of his races and stuff. And actually I signed up for the Canadian Ironman. And then we got pregnant. And so I had the baby 6 weeks before. Still did it.
Oh, geez.
Only the swim.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't figure out how I could breastfeed on the bike and the run.
Yeah, that's right. You'd be out there missing some spots. Jeez. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then one of those, I think the one before, Michael proposed to me at the finish line.
Oh, no way.
The Canadian Ironman.
Oh, in Canada. Wow.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. But anyway,
So you guys have seen you've seen the YouTube video where the guy gets down on his knees at the Ironman finish line and he cramps? Have you seen that?
No.
Okay, Michael, I want you to right now go look that up. You will die. If he proposed to you at the finish line, this guy gets down and his hamstring cramps.
Oh my!
And so the meds have to come, and he's on his back, and then he stepped up and he raised the ring while they were treating him.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he's half dead though, but yeah. So yeah, I mean, if I had someone who wasn't an athlete and didn't really understand, why I want to go for these goals and stuff and support me, there's no way I could do what I have done.
Well, I just think, for everybody, we need these passions and these hobbies, especially at this age where, maybe things are settled down when one is in their 60s. Typically, if they raise kids, those kids are probably adult age. And I've hit this point in my life where I was coaching so hard from third grade to high school that I didn't have a second to spare for my own, wasn't worried about anything except for beating the kids in basketball, soccer, and track. I just wanted to kick their butt at every practice, and that was my thing. And then when it was over, my son was really helpful. He said, after one of the basketball practices where I was showing off and doing my no-look passes, he goes, "Dad, you should join a basketball league for people your own age instead of hot dogging during our practices." I'm like, that's a good idea. So I went and did some adult basketball and all that stuff. But so I asked you what your friends and your peers thought, but when you get to the meets and you see the other gals in the 30s and the 40s and Cynthia's in the 45s or whatever, what do you see some common themes and mindsets and personality types there where these people are overcoming a lot of resistance because there's not a lot of masters female track clubs around where they have practice 3 days a week. They're kind of on their own in a lot of ways, but they're there doing it. Yeah.
I mean, there's when I did the decathlon nationals a few years ago, the women, I got to know the women. Usually when you do the combined sport or combined events competitions, you really get to know your competitors. And there's not a whole lot of people in the same age groups. Like, I think I was the only person in my age group. And but we sat around and we're talking to the other ladies who were anywhere from their 40s to in their 70s, and they all been competing and for like many, many years together. And even though they're in different age groups and stuff, they're just like the best of friends. They'll get hotels together and share the costs. They might train on their own. Most of them train on their own.
Right.
But anyway, just watching the friendships blossom and throughout the years, and going to nationals is like a reunion. Every time you go to nationals or regionals, it's kind of like a reunion.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the common theme is friendships and camaraderie, and just you have a mutual respect for them because you know how hard it is to like be so active and to get to the start line. Just anyone who gets to a start line, I have total respect for that because it's scary. It's really scary, and you have to overcome that fear. Not everyone's scared, but I'm sure a lot of people are scared.
I'm going to wrap up with some deep questions for you about nervousness and your competitive mindset, and like going back to college when you were and trying to qualify for the Olympic trials. Like, did you get nervous then? Do you get the same nervous now? Is it a positive energy? Do you kind of dread it sometimes? Like, where do you fall on those scales?
Yeah.
Have you worked on that, like with another performance coach or her seventh coach that she's going to mention? Name dropping on the podcast.
I do have another person I work with. But yeah, I mean, oh my gosh, I suffered so much in high school. Like in the high jump specifically,
so much pressure.
I would cry almost every meet because I really wanted to jump 5 feet, and I was always jumping 410, 411, and then in college I was just so wrapped up in high jump, and it's such a hard event because you're always ending in a fail. Unless you go out,
unless Mahuchik clears it and then retires.
Just retire. So and you're going over a barrier. So I wish I knew now what I know now, because I have worked on it a lot, and I've done my own studying on the mental part of training, and especially with all the events that I do go through and do visualization. I do breathing techniques to make sure that if I'm too anxious, like at the Olympic trials, that was a little scary, right? Okay. You're at the Olympic trials, and you've got more people who've ever than ever before are in the crowds, and but I know how to do these certain breathing techniques, and it just calms my heart rate, and then it's just you just think it's just another meet. The track is just another track. So there's a lot of different ways you can go about, like if you're anxious, to calm yourself down.
Yeah, I mean people say that a lot, like just pretend it's just another meet. And now I've also heard people second guess that, because like it's not just another meet, and you can't really trick yourself. So if you said like this is the biggest meet of my life,
that's true.
It's kind of a weird situation, but
I have been in this sport for a long time, so I have experienced a lot of big meets. So I do have that to draw back on.
Yeah.
But the other thing that helps me is breaking things down into little processes. You probably heard that a lot. So like my 800 was not 800, it was 200s,
oh sure,
or 200s. So what do I do? I have a plan for each 200.
Yeah. So also like getting there and changing from your shoes to your spikes and doing this and doing that, so everything's like broken down.
Pretty crazy, with lots of nervous tension. And you're watching all the people that you're going to be competing against, especially at Worlds and stuff. It's like, you're watching everyone else, they're watching you. Someone might start doing a stretch, you're like, oh, should I be doing that stretch?
Boy, the posturing,
yeah. So I have learned a lot over the years, and I feel I'm in a really good place. I do work with Sarah Green-Falk, who is a sports coach and like on the mental side of things, and so we meet a couple times a month, and she kind of helps me get everything straight. And I was really proud of myself at the trials. Whatever I did, made me calm enough to, execute the strategy. I came up a little bit short with the world record, but I was proud that I gave it my all, and everything worked out the way it did. So
I mean that's pretty intense. I mean, people the Masters 800 came on the track in the stadium with the Olympic trials. So when you say you were at the Olympic trials, you were racing on the track at the Olympic trials.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hayward Field.
I don't want to mess with your head too much, but like I have to ask this question because I've never been in this position. Like, you're kind of a heavy favorite when you're going to Worlds, and does that change like the dynamics and put more pressure on you? I mean, you said that you're thinking about improving and getting better, but like the reality is it's a big meet. No matter what you say, if it's just another meet, it's like a game you play. But like also that aspect of like you're coming in with the target on your back, so to speak.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, and also I
want to hear like a Sha'Carri type answer now. Like, that's right. Here's a target. Here it is. Come and get it.
I'm the best.
Here comes Sue from Santa Barbara. You want to throw down? Let's go. You want to run 110s? I'll run 110s. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm not quite like.
You want to take it out at 108? Let's go 108. Yeah.
I'm gonna win no matter what. No. Now I lost my train of thought. Okay. So.
Yeah. So if you're a heavy favorite, like, is it a dynamic that you have to deal with and like cope with at some point, or it's just like?
So I think that I have to fight the pressure that I want to put, that I could put on myself, because I've never been a world champion. I've gotten third a few times, but I've never won gold at a world championship, and that's my goal, is to become a world champion once or twice or maybe more, because I'm in quite a few events. So that's, but I can't really focus on that because, that could get in my head.
Yeah.
So what I focus on is just, again, process. Like I break down every single, if it's a run, I'll break down, the 400 or the 800. I'll break down the pole vault, high jump.
Yeah.
Just break everything down and just focus on one or two little things.
I think that's a great attitude, great suggestion. Best of luck to you. And if you break your world record and you have a 2-second PR and you're second and leaned out by somebody, I think you're probably going to be super satisfied.
Definitely.
And try for the next meet.
Yeah. Total respect for that person.
Yeah, whoever that mythical, made-up, hypothetical 61-year-old female that's going to, give her grief on the home stretch. But if she's out there, come on out. Come on out.
You never know. Everyone's training. There's some people that we don't know how the training's going, and you never know, someone might come out of nowhere.
Yeah. Sue McDonald, people from Santa Barbara, so nice to catch up. Good luck in all the meets. Thanks for following all 7 accounts that we mentioned during the show. You're going to be full up with great information. And that's a wrap.